Well, welcome everybody. This is another installment of Creative Real Estate Investing number 3. It's Saturday, and I've got two guests on right now, Aaron Ameen in Houston and Marc Oshiro, financial firefighter from Hawaii. We're going to dig into a few specific strategies and scenarios. So why don't we just kick this off, okay? Aaron, I'm going to start with you. I want you to just talk through one strategy that got you into a deal, and along the way, explain a little bit about who you are and what you have going on with your platforms, your school, and all that stuff.
Sure. Well, thank you very much for having me on. It's a great group of people. Always excited to share a room with you. So I'm Aaron. I live in Houston, Texas now, but the deal I'm going to talk about is related to the very first deal we ever bought back in 2019 in Las Vegas. So my wife and I were living there. We lived there from 2015 to 2020. We bought a primary home in 2017, and we bought our very first rental in 2019. So a couple things I'll share. Number one, how we ended up getting our first rental was we essentially ended up foregoing a big fancy wedding. We had been saving a little bit of a nugget for that. And living in Vegas, one of the benefits is that you can get a minister over to your house in about 20 minutes if you want to. Or as Mark knows, you could just drive over to the Denny's and they got an altar right there at the host stand. So pretty easy to get married. Anyway, long story short, we decided to get married in our backyard. It cost $225 total. And we took all the money that we had saved up for our wedding and used it to buy our first rental house. But what I wanted to share is not about that first rental house. It's actually what that led to. And, the first rental was great. It was our foot in the door. It was only about a mile away from our house. So we, learned kind of some of the first lessons about what it means to be a landlord. We didn't know a whole lot about how to underwrite and all that. So it was really just a test of how do we, we were self-managing. So we were setting up all our systems and rent collection, leases, all that stuff. But before we were really ready, even only a few months later, the agent that sold that house, he called us and he said, I have this very unique opportunity. It's 2 houses that are currently under long-term leases with assisted living operators. And they're both mid-cycle. These partners own a bunch of them, and one of the partners wants to cash out. And so it's basically a right place, right time type of phone call. We got a opportunity to bid on these off market, and nobody else really got a shot at it. I just happened to be the one that got that phone call from our agent. He knew that my wife and I were trying to build a nugget for the future, that we had caught fire behind this idea of being real estate investors. But the only problem was we didn't really have a whole lot of money. So this is, kind of the story I wanted to share, I guess, is that when the right deal comes along, you do your best to get creative and figure it out. And it did not come without risk, but essentially what we did was we ended up doing a cash out refinance on our primary home. And we sold off basically every last penny we had in the stock market at that time. We found a lender who was willing to do a 15% down payment on an investment property. And because we were doing 2 loans at once, I don't think this same lender would do the same deal in this market, but we had the benefit of it being the tail end of 2019 with much different conditions. And so we were able to cash out. It was about $55,000 from our primary home. And then between that and dumping out the piggy bank, we were able to buy into these 2 properties. And at the time, it felt like astronomically high interest rates. It was 5.99%. When in an environment where you could get a 3 on or a 3.5 on investment properties, that felt really high at the time. But anyway, we were able to lock into those deals, and obviously it has worked out very well. We are now kind of in residential assisted living as our full-time strategy. And I'll fast forward just, to answer your question, Joel, about kind of what my whole shtick is now. So we ended up buying 8 total rental properties across 3 states in about 3.5 years. So we expanded from those first ones right in Las Vegas where we were living. We ended up moving across the country a couple times and picking up some rentals along the way. And we built the skill set, some through trial by fire and some through meeting other people, getting coached by others, learning from mentors, and built the skill set of being long distance investors. And now I do offer and have coached a few dozen people on how to buy their own first rental property anywhere in the country. So remote real estate investing is kind of my sweet spot. And then most recently, my wife and I are now here in Houston building 2 ground up development assisted living homes in a suburb of Northwest Houston. So that's me in a nutshell. And those 2 assisted living homes that we bought back in end of 2019, that was at least one of the creative deals that I had in my story.
Whew. Okay. I want to back up just for a second. So you're doing 2 transactions at one time, one investment property, cash out. Were you at that point? You were still living in the property. You're still living in the primary. So, if the lender's doing both those deals, because you were buying the new one as an investment property. Okay, I'm sorry, because I just did a deal recently where they were buying a new primary residence and they were pulling cash out of their existing primary residence. We called it an investment property, and when you do an investment property, there's no right to rescission period to fund on a primary residence. If you do a refi, you have to close and then wait 3 business days and then fund. I learned the hard way on this one that we couldn't close same day. We had to wait 3 business days on the primary, even though we were calling it an investment property. So 3 days to close, et cetera. So, okay. Yeah, I mean, rates at 5.99. Yeah, it seems like a distant memory, but
and we refied those 2 houses 6 months later at 3.75. But this was 2020, which is that we'll probably never see that again. So we're very fortunate, and we don't take that for granted. We actually did 7 different mortgage transactions in 2020. So I guess it's not like we had some foresight that things were going to change, but we did refinance all of our existing debt. And then we did a few different acquisitions in 2020 as well. Okay. So the majority of our portfolio, we were able to lock in at those lower rates. The only exception being a few properties we bought in Iowa a couple of years later that were in the high 5s and mid 6s.
Okay. So we got some people in the comments. I'm going to get to that in just a second. Mark, go ahead and walk us through just one scenario for us, and again, who you are.
I'm the financial firefighter. I'm out in Hawaii. I'm a full-time firefighter out on injury, workers' comp, waiting for my shoulder to have surgery. But yeah, just trying to help other people get started, get out of the rat race. But basically, I invest 6,000 miles away in Pittsburgh, invest remotely, got a good community I'm a part of, one rental at a time, a school community. So go check them out. It's only $20 a month. I'll put the link in the chat on my side. But yeah, go check them out. Aaron's a part of that also. He's doing a lot of cool stuff there. A lot of people reach out to Aaron for his residential assisted living things he's working on. I think I just messaged someone in school today, say reach out to you because they had something they want to talk about. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's more. I'm definitely on the boring side, long-term buy and hold. Definitely like and interested in all these creative strategies, but for me, it's more just acquiring assets. I think the one thing I noticed, and they've posted it in school a few times, and I think a lot of people aren't familiar with like a delayed purchase financing. So you purchase something all cash, and you can basically start the process to extract the equity out of it right away. You don't need a seasoning period. So if you talk to certain lenders and already have that set up in place, then, especially when I was first purchasing, everything was active. You had to have an offer that kind of stood out. So if you were able to present something with all cash, definitely, the sellers were more inclined to take your offer. And now a lot of people thought they'd have to wait a period of time to refinance to get that money back out if that was a strategy. But there's a lot of lenders out there that allow you to do a delayed purchase where basically you can start that process right when you close. So you work with certain lenders, you do make that cash offer. And I think, Joe, you also have a product, right, in your lending side. I'm not sure if you're still doing that, where basically it looks like you're making a cash offer in a sense, right? I don't know if I'm explaining it correctly, but you guys do have a lending product where the buyer comes in and it almost as if you're making a all cash offer. Is that correct?
Yeah, we do. So I work for New American Funding. We've got a product where you can, let's just say you're doing a 5% conventional loan. New American Funding literally goes and buys the property, and then the next day completes the financing with the borrower. Now there are some additional costs. I think it's like between 1% and 2% depending on the state. So in a very competitive market, it's something that could stand out. But in a lot of markets, things are a little bit more lax or buyer friendly. So it's not as a hot of a topic anymore as it was a couple years back. But I do want to ask you a question on the cash offer part, right? You know, if you had the ability to go get a loan on the property versus do a cash offer, looking back on that scenario, how much better of a deal do you think you were able to get because it was a cash offer and less risk to the seller?
Yeah, I think the way I look at it now is definitely if you have the funds to do it, but that's the struggle for a lot of people is acquiring that funds to get started, right? But now that I look at it, that's kind of the position I'm in now, where I'm only looking at making cash offers possibly on these lower price point purchases because of where the economy is right now. It's almost like taking a lot of risk off the table for myself and just getting a good yield on it or cash on cash return. So let's say I'm getting, 10, 12% right now, better than me keeping it in a savings account or whatnot. But now I have a lot less risk on the table and don't have to worry, let's say, if tenants are going to move out, and I'm not under that pressure of having to place a tenant as quickly. So that's kind of what I'm looking at right now, is trying to find these properties that might fit that kind of right at maybe that 100K or below, so where I can make a cash purchase, and when rates do come down, then I'll refinance out and get the equity out. But right now, if I can buy it all cash and just take a lot of risk off the table.
Awesome. So did you guys see the links that I posted from Restream here in the chat with your guys' YouTube links? Did that come through to y'all? Do you guys see that?
I see it.
It's on your page, right? It's going to pop up on your page, but I do see it. Yeah.
Okay. But that means that if someone's watching one of your channels specifically, it's not going to come through, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll figure that one out later.
Yeah, I would just have to post it on my side or whatnot. But
okay. Yeah. So if you're out there, obviously, we encourage you to check out Financial Firefighters YouTube page, and as well as Aaron Ameen's page.
Go check out everyone's page, because we're all streaming it right now. So go, if you're not subscribed to the other person's channel, go hop off real quick. Go jump over there. Please subscribe, but then jump back to mine after.
That's right. We got 26 people total on the stream here, so that's pretty good here. The purpose of doing this, right? I mean, is to open up ideas and share strategies and continue to talk about these things. In my world, in the lending side of things, I started my journey doing, buying one primary residence at a time, turn the next one into a rental, scale, save up. Again, buy the next one as a primary residence, turn the old one into a rental. Then I started to get into some other multifamily, other things along the way. And the question that I asked myself as I'm talking to, friends, family, colleagues, and also clients, do these strategies still work? Does the buy and hold, does it still work in this environment where we have a lot of unknowns of what the market's going to do? And I guess I want to open it up to you guys. I mean, Mark, you bought a number of single family properties in Pittsburgh, right? And Aaron, you had your journey in different places. If you're talking to somebody today that's just getting started and they're going to acquire their first rental, however that may be, what type of expectations do you see or expect going forward versus where things were over the last, say, 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and expectations, like, that's the right word to talk about, because a lot of people getting into single family long-term buy and hold rentals, it's really hard to reprogram your brain to the timeline that it takes to really see the benefits of that strategy. And that, I think, was also true 5 years ago. There just so happened to be this big tailwind of appreciation that was completely out of any of our control. Unless you're doing a forced appreciation strategy, then a lot of that was just kind of a gift from above. And that's not something that I would have expected back then. And that's not something I would expect right now. We can't really control that part of the strategy. But what you can do, and what I try to do when I'm talking to new investors, is help them understand something like an amortization table, and how the first 7 years of that is not very favorable, right? And you start to reach a compounding loan pay down after a certain point. And so if you're buying with kind of this idea that the first 5 years you're going to see this big, magnificent return that's going to knock your socks off, it's pretty hard to find that unless you're buying stuff at a steep discount or using creative finance or, some of the, which is awesome if you can do. But there's also a pretty big population out there that does, look for things that are turnkey, pretty boring. And the intention is to just hold for the long term. So if you can broaden your time horizon and try and like impress upon people that this is not a get rich quick type strategy, the long-term buy and hold, then I think, people can make their own decision about whether that works for them. Because there are other ways to invest in real estate that are faster, but they typically involve more risk and probably a lot more time that you have to put in. So I don't know if that was a direct answer, but that's initial thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying is, just get back to your typical long-term time horizon.
And that was what I felt in 2019 when I bought those houses too, was that it would not be an immediate benefit. It's great that some, in Las Vegas where I was investing, for example, that there was a huge wave of appreciation, but there's also a downside to that, right? Now the city's barely affordable for people that want to buy, first-time homebuyer houses. And it's also not a very strong market for investors to come into now. And so there's a flip side to every coin when it comes to, markets running up like that. And there are markets out there that have a little more slow and steady appreciation and are still reasonable entry points even today.
I'm going to tell everyone, and we talk about it in the one rental at a time community, is 5 years of suck. Like the first 5 years are going to suck. And I think a lot of people are noticing that. I mean, even if, you look at even like Bigger Pockets, it really feels like they are changing their message now. They're going through a lot of changes right now. It seems like they've gone away from this 100-unit portfolio, no money down, all this, creative finance type stuff where, you're not putting any money down and people got these expectations that were unrealistic. So you can see that they've even kind of pivoted from their message. And I think, the creative finance space is amazing, and it's a tool, just like anything else. It's another tool that you can use. But the big thing is you just got to get started. And even in the school community, the one rental at a time, I've seen a few people that are still there, but I see them more in the sub 2 space now. And that's the path that they're choosing, and that's fine. But the main thing is that they've started, right, and they found their niche. And there's a lot of ways to do it. Like even Aaron, he's pivoting to the residential assisted living side. There's Jared, REI Jared, who's in the school community, who's killing it with the rent by the room method, pad split. And there's even Brandon Potts, who's build to rent Texas. He's doing the build to rent model. So, but the main thing is everyone got started first, right? And then they kind of find what works best for them. But like back to your point, Joe, I think the biggest thing, if it's possible, and we talked about it earlier on our other live with Curtis, if you can house hack, that's a great way to get started. And Curtis, if you don't know his story, PE turned RE, he had the opportunity to house hack or he bought a property that he found he could board off one of the rooms, and he lived in it with no shower basically. So he would shower at the gym, shower at his mom's house, girlfriend's house, but that's how he got on the property ladder. So to Joe's point, he's always stressing, get that first property, right? Save 25%, get your money, get your income right, and then get that first property. And if you can house hack, that's definitely the best way to probably get started. And once you do that, then now you can branch off into these other strategies that are out there, right? Like, sub 2, seller finance, and all these different methods out there.
Yeah, the whole house hack scenario right now, I think, is a huge opportunity for somebody that's in their 20s or even 30s buying their first property. I want to dig into that in a second. But those that are in the chat here, if you could do me a favor, do us a favor. Where are you from, and what year did you acquire your first rental? Just so we can, because again, I know a lot of the people here are coming from Mark's network and Aaron's network, and I don't know everybody. So if you could do me a favor, where are you from, and when did you purchase your first property? Just so we can get some more feedback on what people are into and doing these days. The whole house hacking thing, because when I talk to people about house hacking who may or may not know about it, some people align it with rent by the room as what house hacking is. Some other people, and this is where my experience is more, hey, acquire a multi-family, live in one unit, and then rent out the other units. And my first unit was a condo in 2009. And then I bought a single family property in 2013. So I never got into the multifamily space. And again, that's part of the purpose for me even wanting to put any content out there, is that I built a portfolio over time. I never had a mentor. In those days, I mean, there wasn't as much information on social media as there is today. So what can I do from my seat to be able to help the next person? And if I could do it all over, I'd love to have acquired a multifamily property. But with where prices have risen over the last 4 or 5 years coming out of COVID and rates being high right now, obviously there's a lot of pressure, forcing people out of affordability, and the affordability metrics especially for people that are younger, is just out of this world. So there's more ground up construction in the multifamily space. So they're building this infrastructure for a renter society. So if I'm 25 and I can increase income, save money, get into my first property, let's just say it's a duplex or a quadplex, and I have somebody in mind who, played baseball at a D1 school, good, college area, massive amount of rent demand. And he bought his first property as a quadplex and rented all the units to baseball players at school. Great opportunity. And so he's got that network. And imagine if you're 25 and the number of people who obviously are only going to be renting, they're never going to be in a position to buy at age 25, only in time. So if I got my stuff together and I have my income and my credit and my assets already in place, and I want to go buy a property, because in my mind, I bought my first property to minimize risk. I'm in a 100% commission job. If anything happens to my income, if something happens, what do I do? I bought in St. Louis, in the center part of the county, that I knew that if something happened to me, that I could rent it out in a heartbeat. And so if I'm young, that's what I'm thinking. What can I do to minimize risk? And then if you have that lane of demand of rent, it's a major opportunity. So Aaron, in Houston, right? There's a lot of ground up construction. There's a lot of duplexes, a lot of opportunity out there to potentially house hack. But property taxes are high in Houston and Texas compared to other places too. You being in multiple markets, I mean, any thoughts on that house hacking mindset?
Yeah, so I'll share a few things. First of all, none of my rentals are in Houston, and that's not necessarily because I have anything against it here, but part of the benefit of being a long distance investor and being comfortable with that is that I'm not constraining myself to only invest in my home market, because I do think there are downsides in Houston. You mentioned taxes, that's totally one of them. Insurance is insane. I got a renewal yesterday that was for the second year in a row. It went up 40% last year and 26% again in this upcoming renewal cycle. And so insurance, it started when I moved into this house 2 years ago. It was like $3,400 a year, and now it's a little over $5,000. And that's just insurance. And taxes also went up. And so from a investment standpoint, whether you're house hacking or buying an investment property, that is not sustainable. And that's not stuff. It's not like you get the benefit of the principal. If you have a high principal and interest, at least, again, that amortization table, you're going to get the benefit of that over time. Tax and insurance, yes, you can write it off, but it's not helping you build wealth, especially if it's going to increase like that. And, so picking a market, I do think is important, to factor in stuff like we're basically getting punished for weather-related risk. We've never filed a claim on this house. We have a pretty clean claim history. And not to go too far into the insurance rabbit hole, it's just an example of something that is, I think, worse in some markets than others. But also, to your point about actual house hacking, if you don't want to share walls with people and you don't want to live in the same house at the same time as people, we did 3 separate times, live then rent. We lived in a house for at least 1 year. In the case of our first house, that one that we refinanced, I always talk about this, how we got 4 uses out of the same house. We lived there for 3 years. That was the first house we ever bought. It was a personal, we got a lot of good personal use out of it. We refinanced it, used it to help buy those other 2 houses. We moved, we kept it as a rental for 3 years. And then we were able to sell it and use the capital gains exclusion because we had lived there 2 out of the last 5 years. And so we were able to sell it at a substantial gain and not pay taxes on those gains, and then use that to buy more real estate. Right. So if house hacking and the idea of sharing is not, doesn't fit into your current lifestyle or is not a sacrifice that you want to make, there is that kind of idea of live then rent too. But to your point, I mean, if at the time that I started finally getting into real estate, I was already almost married and then married, right? Like by the time we bought our first rental, we were married. And so I think our willingness to make those kind of lifestyle sacrifices was, we were kind of past that point, for better or for worse. If I had known about all this stuff when I was 25 and had more flexibility, I probably would do exactly what you're talking about. I would have found a duplex or a triplex or a quadplex, because I do think that's one of the best ways to duplicate and like compound, build your portfolio quickly without necessarily putting yourself underwater. And then to your point too, like I would make sure I'm in a stable enough position with my salary and my ability to continue to increase my earnings. I love your strive for 25 message, because that's kind of how I was at the beginning of my real estate journey, is that I was equally focusing on growing my W-2. I know you had me on your podcast a while ago and we talked about that, but it's like I was focused on growing my earnings so that I could continue to afford to do these things. And that was my way of de-risking, was that if something went wrong or turned south, I would be able to afford the payments. So I think, yeah, I'll stop there.
No, that's good stuff. You mentioned, hey, Houston is not the area that you're currently holding rentals. So you mentioned Las Vegas. Like, where are your properties?
Yeah, so currently we still have properties in Las Vegas, Central Washington State, so not Seattle area where a lot of people, tons of appreciation there, but also one of the most highly regulated areas and one of the most expensive areas in the country. So ours are in Central Washington in an area called the Wenatchee Valley. And then we have a couple more in the Quad Cities in Iowa, which is right where Iowa and Illinois cross the right at the border where the Mississippi River splits those states.
Very cool. Very cool. Mark, one of the things that I remember seeing a clip, that I think it was Zuber that was saying this on your show, that, when you have that annual rent increase of say 3 to 5%, that it's more than just, a modest increase in rent, the gross rent. It's, well, if your net profit is say 4% or 5%, well, that 5% of gross rent could increase your net profit up to 40% or 50%. You have that massive increase of the net profit with that annual increase. So any thoughts on that, or and more kind of a backdrop on that with your portfolio and just Zuber in general in terms of just the philosophy?
Yeah, before I go, I want to give a shout out to Bree, who is tuning in. If anyone's looking for some real estate in Tampa, go reach out to her. I put her YouTube channel private chat to Joe if he can share it on your platform. But Bree's going to be on my channel soon and do some lives with us. But you have to go check out her social media, Instagram. I'm sure you get some kicks out of it. But if you're looking for some properties out in Tampa, go reach out to her. But she is hilarious, so go check her out. And there's her YouTube channel right there, so go subscribe also. But to Joe's point, yeah, I think we always, so I think it's Zuber, but also Dion always talks about it too. Is not only the rent increase, it's also looking at like property management. So like a lot of times you may factor in 10% for property management, for example, and you're looking at it from the gross standpoint, right? Or let's say your rent collected is $1,000 for the month, and you take 10% off, you're paying $100, right? So you're looking at it as, it's only a 10% expense. But if let's say your profit is only, your cash flow is only $200 for that property, right? And now you're paying a 10% or the $100, which was 10% of the gross. That's basically 50% of your net profit, right? So if you look at it from that standpoint, and that's just even like the rent increases, right? You're looking at it, instead of looking at it from the gross rent, you're looking at it from the net cash flow. These small increments do add up on the cash flow side and the expense side. So any way that you can, lower these things or even increase in a small way, it goes a long way. So there's a lot of people like Dion talks about it quite a bit. Everyone should know Graham Stephan. He's a big YouTube social media influencer, but he talks about how he was in real estate before. He's definitely kind of transitioned away from that, but that's kind of how he lost his properties in a sense, right? He had these rental properties, but he never increased the rents, right? So even small amounts would have kept his profit up, but he didn't raise rents for like 10 years or so. And basically, that's how he kind of lost these properties. And now when it was time, his rents are way below market rent, whatnot. Now you have all these repairs or expenses you have to pay on the turn, and you haven't been collecting this cash flow for 10 years now, or this extra cash flow that you could have, right? So even these small increments do add up. And even like insurance, Aaron talked about it in his market. Insurance has become an issue, and Bree, if she's still here in Florida, right, insurance has become a big issue in those markets too now. And so now everyone is starting to figure out little ways how they can lower these expenses, right? And I think Curtis didn't touch on it earlier, but on the live earlier, Curtis has been sitting down having coffee with a lot of these owners of bigger portfolios, and there's some of them out there that this one individual who I think he says he might have like 30 units now, all paid off though now, but he doesn't even keep insurance on them. That's his strategy now, because he's dealt with so many insurance companies that he feels like it's such a problem to collect from them that instead of paying them, he just allocates money as like his own insurance policy that he's building in his cash reserves. So that's that individual's strategy, right? But basically, my point was always you got to get in the game first and acquire these assets, and then you're going to figure out ways what works best in your market. So like Pennsylvania, knock on wood, insurance hasn't been that much of an issue compared to maybe like the Texas market, but property taxes are still an issue in Pennsylvania, and they have high transfer title fees, right? So every market has their own kind of problems you have to assess, right? But that's why it's always good to reach out to someone that's been investing there before you, right? So like if you are interested in Texas, reach out to someone like Aaron, who can give you kind of the headaches that he's already gone through, right? Some of the struggles that he might have made. If you want to invest in Pennsylvania or whatnot, reach out to me. Pittsburgh, I'll tell you, hey, like if you're going to, some people think they can just buy a property in their name and then transfer it to an LLC after. But in Pennsylvania, you're going to have all these transfer title fees you have to pay, and it's like the highest in the country. So there's just these little nuances each market has. So reach out to someone that's been doing it, and definitely, that's how you'll kind of lessen the 5 years of suck, maybe.
The first multifamily property that I acquired, I bought 2 in 2017, and I used a similar strategy that helped me, minimize the out of pocket. So I got these off market. I was able to get pretty good prices on them, and I was doing a commercial loan, which the product was going to be a 5-year balloon, 20-year amortization. I don't even remember what the rates were initially, probably in the 5s, and the appraisals came in quite a bit higher, and they let me take the loan amount up to 75% of the appraised value, and which essentially, when all is said and done, instead of putting down say 20 to 25%, I ended up putting down like 5%, 10%, less than that. And I also negotiated a repair credit with the seller, and that helped me bring the out of pocket down too with closing costs. I was able to get into these deals with pretty low dollar amount out of pocket, and because there was some upgrades and things that need to get done to get the property into better shape. The reason I bring it up is that from a lending tool standpoint, your typical commercial bank is going to offer a 5-year balloon, 20-year am. And after 5 years, that note's going to renew, and you'll have to refinance into a new note. From a standpoint of lending, then you've got now DSCR loans, 30-year fixed, that are out there. You have your traditional conventional loans, 30-year fixed, that are going to be in your personal name, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. For Aaron, in your journey, when you're navigating conventional loans, getting into more deals, more complex, how did you navigate the different products, and which ones have you used along the way?
Yeah, I've had a pretty boring standard journey for the most part. Again, being kind of lucky that we were dual W-2 income, and we bought rentals, and each one was positive cash flow position. We were able to show profit on our taxes, so they weren't it wasn't held against us in our DTI. We had strong DTI, even though we were layering mortgage after mortgage after mortgage. So all of our rentals are on standard 30-year fixed conventional loans, every single one. Mm-hmm. We've done cash out refis. We have multiple HELOCs at this point, which is nice. Because we did 3 separate live then rents, we actually were able to put a HELOC on 2 of those with pretty substantial equity. And then we've used those HELOCs in a couple different scenarios. We did use a commercial loan at one point. We did a flip last year. and it was actually 85%, which I was surprised by. And then they did a construction loan, but that was just one that we structured with the local regional bank, that they were willing to be flexible with us due to we were partnering with someone who had a lot of flip experience, and then we had a strong balance sheet, so they were willing to get creative even in a kind of crazy environment in 2024. So nothing too crazy. We are now in the middle of applying for an SBA loan for this new project we're doing, but this is more of a small business play and a development play than a rental property. So I don't know that it applies much to the context of a standard rental investor, but it is interesting to learn the complete different process of going through a commercial and an SBA loan application versus going through a personal, Fannie, Freddie, conventional. It's a totally different evaluation and risk rating process that they do. And they're kind of looking at you holistically as individuals and then applying it to the situation that you're going after. So in our case, it's starting a business. So I think that's the brief overview of the landscape of lending we've used.
No, thanks for sharing that, because just recently I had a question about the number of conventional loans you can do. I mean, in the old days you were maxed at 4, and now I think it's 10, 20, depending on a couple different scenarios. So there's definitely options out there if it makes sense.
We held 9 at one point, for whatever that's worth.
Okay. Yep. And then Mark, the stuff that you did along your journey in Pittsburgh, I think you were doing these all on LLCs, and I think you set up individual LLCs for each property. Is that right? Or how did you structure that?
So not legal advice or any tax advice, but I would say if I was to do it again, I would not do that. All my properties are in their own individual LLC. And I get, it does make, for me, it made sense to use the LLC for the DSCR lending, and maybe Joel can cover later what DSCR stands for and what it means. But it made sense for me to use the LLCs for the DSCR lending because my debt to income was fairly high due to the property value of my Hawaii residence. So that's why I chose that route. But now for putting each property in its own individual LLC, to me, that's a little overkill. I can see if I was to do it again, and I would probably put maybe $1 million worth of asset value per LLC, just to save me some bookkeeping headaches, renewal fees and things like that. So some people do use it for asset protection and whatnot, but from my experience, there's so much you have to do right to keep that asset protection structure in place. And I definitely feel as if someone was to sue me or go after me, they would easily be able to pierce the veil of my structure because of all the mistakes and commingling of funds I made. So definitely it can work, but you do have to have a lot of things set up properly. And in the beginning, you're trying to just figure things out. And I think I don't know if you guys know who Cody is. Also, Cody Davis from Cody and Christian. Cody is, what is he, like 23 or 25 now, multimillionaire, but he started when he was like 20 maybe, but all his stuff was seller financing at first. So he had no bank loans for the early part of his journey. And he was just acquiring multifamily spaces in his market, all seller finance. But even him, like in the beginning, you're trying to figure things out. So like, you got an expense that comes up, and I think he touched on it in one of his Zuber videos recently, but you use a credit card. He had a 0% interest loan credit card. He got the funds through, I forget, there are different platforms out there. I forget the names of some of them. But you can get the funds through that, and then that's how you pay the bill. But now you have 0% interest on your credit card for maybe 18 months. But in the beginning, you're trying to figure stuff out. You're trying to figure out how to pay bills and get through some tough times. And I think, like I said, I commingled funds so much in the beginning that it would be easy for someone to pierce the veil on my structure.
Pierce the veil. Don't give anybody any ideas, Mark.
Yes, like I said, not legal advice, no tax advice here. Just a lot of shenanigans this Saturday, having fun, sharing our journeys. So.
Do you think any of your tenants know about your social media stuff and YouTubes and how amazing you are on these lives?
That's another thing, right? So I do think that there's some people, and I won't mention names, like in our school community, that is part of their concern too, right? So even for them, they have set up their structure to where they have set it up to they are very anonymous to their tenants. They are self-managing, but they do have like the whole separate phone line, like the business phone line. You have the business email. You're basically contacting them almost as a business. And there's people that do that, and they have everything set up that way. But it's a lot of work, and you have to kind of trial and error and see what platforms work for you, if there is softwares that will provide the services you want. So I'm sure if someone wanted to, they could find out that I'm their landlord in a sense, or the owner. But at the same time, I don't think people have that much time on their hands too, right? For the most part. I think people aren't concerned. They're like, I'm trying to pay my rent and then go to work and do my thing, right?
Yeah. And just a quick shout out to Mark. 100 and something subscribers away from 1,000. So if you don't subscribe to Mark's channel, find it.
The funny thing is my subscriber count jumped quite a bit when you took a break from my coming on my lives.
Dude, gift that keeps on giving. That's what I do here.
Hey, the other Bears fan is here. Now we can really start.
So sorry, guys. It was not supposed to take 5 hours to golf 18 holes. I apologize.
No worries. Thanks, Chris Iannotti in Nashville for jumping on here. Yeah, I mean, in our messaging thread before this, just throwing it on thick with, hey, talking smack on Bears fans when you in St. Louis don't even have a team or an NBA team. I mean, just kick me while the cards are down, man. I appreciate it.
Your baseball team is kind of subpar too, but your hockey team gave it a shot this year, man. They had a chance,
Yeah, I've never seen something like that. Game 7, winning by 2 goals, 2 minutes left. We're the 8 seed. They're the number 1 seed, and then we just give it away. 2 goals, then 2 minutes, go to overtime, and lose.
I would encourage you to watch the Blackhawks Blues series 8-9 years ago. It was very similar. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you guys, always had our number. Always had our number. That's just how it is. That Patrick Kane, all those guys.
Kaner and Taves. Yeah, we still love you though, Joel. It's okay.
That's all good. That's all good. I'll cry later. But no, we're talking about creative real estate strategies, and I was asking Mark about tenants finding him because his channel it's literally your channel is about to blow up. I mean, it's growth is not linear; it's exponential. So I think before we know it, you're going to be like 50,000 subscribers, like 2026. It's probably around the corner.
I just want to get to 1,000 first. That's what I want to do.
I'm skipping steps. Sorry. But no, Chris, you come from a little bit of a sub-2 background in that world, and I think you've shaken hands with Pace Morby. Maybe what's going on in that world.
Yeah, I think I've been devastated in the real estate business several occasions. Right, I started selling real estate in 2003 in Chicago as a young guy. Started working with investors, started selling flips, and figured out like, why am I selling them deals where they're making 100, plus K on these deals, or buying and holding and making all this money, and started buying properties myself. Like on the south side of Chicago, we could buy properties for $15,000 to $20,000, rehab them, and put Section 8 tenants in them and cash flow, or just sell the deal for like a flat fee, you know what I mean, to roll it into the next deal. That was 2003 to 2008. I started seeing people coming to me buying homes with cash and a shoebox with no doc loans. And I was with it. That's fine. But that market obviously crashed 2008, 2009. And I went into the oil pipeline business, doing work, buying land for oil pipeline companies. And so when I got back into this business, around 2018 or so, I was buying properties myself to flip, and I noticed that banks were getting a little bit more strict about who they lent money to, right? And my credit wasn't always awesome. I had cash, but my debt to income was kind of out of whack because I bought properties that I was flipping or buying and holding, and had a hard time borrowing money from banks the traditional route. Heard about Pace Morby, start following his community, and eventually paid to get into the mentorship and start really learning about sub two. And obviously, sounded too good to be true. You know, that you could buy a house without a bank involved, minimum down payment, cash flow, like gain the plus side on the tax deferment side. You know what I mean? Of taking the depreciation and then obviously increasing the equity on the property, inheriting a better rate than what I could get at the time, right? So yeah, I did get to meet Pace several times. It is a great community. It's not cheap. And a lot of agents are completely clueless to the whole thing. Most real estate associations are against it and consider it illegal or unethical or whatever. And so it's become my purpose to educate other agents, buyers, people, to let people know, like, this is an option, whether it's crappy credit, little cash in the bank, or DTI that's out of whack. Like, there are ways to buy, own property, have your name on the deed, cash flow, and gain equity in a property. You know, 5 years down the road, you could take that cash that you make and use it to leverage other properties, right? So anyways, that's just kind of been my my thing for the last 2 to 3 years, and it's been awesome. It's been amazing. I'm still struggling trying to educate others on the whole process. It's creative finance, but there's a lot more that falls under that creative finance bubble besides sub two. There's seller finance, there's lease options, there's contract for deed. Just in a market like this, you got to find ways to be creative and shift and mold yourself to the market and find ways to make money.
I wanted to just take a second and can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
The paying to get into a community on Mark's live that we were on earlier this morning, one of the questions came up with Curtis, PE turn RE, about potentially paying a coach or a mentor or a group. And, you know, I know Pace's platform is expensive, and there's a lot of those out there. I mean, I think Grant Cardone charges like $25K to be in his program, and they analyze deals, they underwrite deals, and, you know, get on calls. And I've seen some of that stuff before. And is it necessary or not? I don't know. But this is a question for Aaron that I wanted to ask you. So some of the people that are in your community, you know, your students that are in the game, want to be able to get into real estate and build wealth. What are you seeing as a couple examples of the type of profile that they are at that point? And then what markets are they buying in? And if you could just explain a little bit about your community, and I guess even what the costs are and all that stuff.
Yeah, sure. No, I appreciate that. So our community is called the Remote Real Estate Academy. I have one partner, Nathan Murith. He lives in California and invests in St. Louis and Indiana. And then I live in Texas and invest in Washington, Iowa, and Nevada. And we both work full time. We got young kids. So our kind of average person is someone who lives in a high cost of living area and probably has high W-2 income, and they want to diversify out of the stock market, cannot afford to invest in their own market. And so they want to build the skill of investing anywhere in the United States and accessing opportunities in markets that they can't afford. So for the most part, it's we teach the real estate fundamentals, but it's also how to balance it and mix it in with other competing priorities in life, you know, without sacrificing your ability to continue to grow in your W-2 career, without sacrificing the time that you want to spend with your family and on your health and wealth and relationships and all that jazz. So there's elements of time management and just like overall kind of mindset towards tackling things on the side, mixed in with all the real estate stuff. Most of the people that we work with are from the West Coast. We have a couple East Coasters, but that kind of like coastal, you know, Bay Area, Seattle, places that are very expensive but have a lot of like tech jobs. Nathan works in tech. I'm assigned to tech companies often for the consulting company I work for. And so we just kind of have a network of people that are in that exact situation. And where they typically try and invest is a lot of people have been gravitating towards Ohio. There's a couple agents that we have in our community that are actually members that service Ohio, multiple markets in Ohio. And one of the great parts about that state, it is very investor friendly in general, but also there's kind of a range of options. So like Cleveland, is a pretty reasonable cash flow city, depending on where you go, of course. Then you got Columbus, which is kind of an emerging growth market. You got Cincinnati, that's kind of in between. There's places like Dayton or Akron. Like there's quite a few different types of markets there. And so if you want to, you can kind of build teams regionally there. And so we do have a few. I think that's the most common place that our students have been flocking to. We also do market spotlights. So we've been doing one every month. And we're trying to do basically bring our connections and the people that we've met that we know and would vouch for on our own, either people that we've worked with or people that we would trust. And they'll come in and they'll present on, make the case for why to invest in their market. So we've done St. Louis, we've done Atlanta, we've done Ohio, all the markets I just mentioned, Chattanooga. So we are trying to just kind of create a pipeline so that if somebody joins our program, yes, they can find their own market, but they also have access to our connections and our team. So they can learn the fundamentals in our program and then apply them as they, build out their team. And if they want, they can fast track through those connections. The costs I'll share, right now, like we have kind of a couple different programs. So if people want to join the community itself, the annual membership is $1,500. And basically, that gives you direct access to Nathan and I. We're in there. We respond to questions. It's pretty much you get same day answers if you ask a question there. We do host calls. And we also have a feature called Hot Seats where basically we have a Calendly link. And if you have something you want to work through, we have availability across different time zones so people can book a call. And I haven't seen any other programs that have that level of access at that price. So I've been, would like to believe that's great value at that price point. And then we also have a kind of done with you version where it's like even more access direct to us. And we will actually work with you all the way through the entire process. We'll help you vet the markets, build your team. And that's right now we're charging about $5,000 for that. And that's a 6-month engagement. You get direct pipeline into us with even a little bit more access and calls, and we'll sit down with you one-on-one and work on your deals, whatever you need. So we've enjoyed that a lot. Like I said, we've had a few dozen people come through since we launched in 2024. And it's one of the most fun things that I get to do. And thanks for letting me share about it.
Yeah. I mean, real estate is not for everybody, but I think we'd all agree that real estate is for us. And there's a reason why all of us got into real estate. And there's certain things that we probably all felt or feared going in, and then you get into it and you overcome things and you learn things and whatnot. For me, the holy grail, what I call the holy grail, that just the light bulbs opened, was being able to do a cost segregation in 2021, and just massive tax deductions, cash back. And that's a whole different story. But fear, right? Like the fear of the unknown. And anybody want to share a little bit about kind of what was holding them back from maybe getting in earlier and what helped them get over the hump to start?
Well, I think Curtis, PE turned RE tuning in, but I think he had a question possibly for Chris, maybe.
I did see that. Yeah.
Do you all have a preferred calculator or spreadsheet for creative finance?
So I will say that that's a great question. And I think that is the biggest make or break subject that really needs to be investigated by any potential investor is, look, it's all relative, right? Like markets change, rent, income changes, people's situation is fluid. There's not a set calculator. Like, when it comes to flips or it comes to buying a piece of land to develop, there's hardcore formulas that we use. And if the numbers don't look right at the end of that formula, it's not a deal. But when it comes to creative finance, it really depends on little things, right? Like, is there public transportation close by? Are there jobs in the nearby area? What is the market rent? in the area, but not just market rent. You got to look at the class of the neighborhood, right? Like there's A, B, C, D neighborhoods that will fetch more money for rent. And when you talk about doing co-living like we do, renting by the room, like what is the need? What is the just like anything else? What's the demand and what's the supply? Taking that into consideration, and there's so few people doing that right now that those numbers are almost left open to translation. So it just takes more due diligence than it might for some other typical deals. If you just had a 3-bedroom house that you wanted to rent out to one person, well, now you got to look out and kind of do some math, like what is a 3-bedroom house getting and what are people willing to pay? And to me, the only way that I do it is I get out in the streets, I go hang out in that neighborhood and I meet people. Like there's nothing wrong with finding new neighborhoods, finding a cool restaurant, whatever is a trendy spot where everyone hangs out at, and just meet people, be social. What are you paying for rent where you live at? Is it a nice place? Is it brand new? Has it been recently remodeled? Does it need some work? Is it a little rough? Is there, you know what I'm saying? And kind of figure out what the market trend is, and not relying on AI or relying on Zillow or any of the other apps and tools that are out there, but actually getting on the ground and talking to people grassroots and figure out what they're looking for. Do they need amenities or do they not care? They just want a place where they can hang their hat and get a job close by and get on the bus or whatever. You know what I mean? So creative finance is such an untapped market and untapped tool that it's going to take some more elbow grease to really figure it out. But it's a great question.
Do you remember Michael Haynes, Chris from the Bears? That's Curtis's uncle.
What?
Yeah, Curtis is a big Bears fan.
Wow.
So, yeah, give him a shout out.
We're all, big shout out. We're all missing Mongo. I got to hang out with Mongo fairly often. Being from Chicago myself, I got to hang out with Dick Butkus's son on a regular basis. He passed away, man, and we got big hopes this year that
yes,
thankfully we have a city that can actually hold on to a football team for generations. You know what I mean? And not only just generations, but stay in the same building on the lakefront, beautiful Lake Michigan, Lakeshore Drive, downtown Chicago. You know what I mean? Like they don't just pull up tent and bounce out to somewhere else. So I mean, like we're blessed. Sorry, Joel, I wasn't naming that at all, man. I was just
jabbing you.
I was just
so blessed.
So blessed. He's been poking though. Come on. He's been poking. I was gonna let him live, but he's been on social media jabbing at me.
That's right. Well, when you said Michael Haynes, I immediately thought of the New Orleans Saints wide receiver, but then I forgot y'all are Bears fans. I don't even know who that is. The lineman. Sorry.
Michael Haynes was a running back, wasn't he, for the Bears?
No, D lineman from Penn State.
My bad.
Yeah.
I apologize.
But yeah,
God bless him.
Curtis actually hates the Bears. He's gonna get so mad that I said he's a Bears fan.
You set me up. That's all right, dude. It is what it is. We don't have much to brag about, but as far as this conversation goes, man, I think it's the time, it's the place. The fruit is ripe for the picking. You have to think of other ideas outside of the box. Consistently bad, he says. That's great. He's being honest though. I just shot 19 holes or 18 holes with a broker with Keller Williams that owns 6 different offices here in Middle Tennessee, and a lender. And we all had the same thing to say, like the market right now is pretty stagnant. And so when I talked to him, when he asked, what do you do? This broker, this big shot. I don't know if he'll see this. If he does, it's okay. He's doing very well for himself. But when I mentioned to him, like I work with a lot of investors, I try to educate agents and investors about creative finance and how to buy property without a bank and without having to come out of their pocket a ton of money. And he was befuddled. This guy's a multi-millionaire, owns multiple offices of Keller Williams, that's very successful in hot markets in the Nashville area. And he had no clue what I was talking about. And if you're hearing me, dude, sorry. I know you shot better than me, but kind of disturbing that you own that many offices. You have no idea what I'm talking about when it comes to creative finance. So that's just facts, man. I mean, we got to be savvy. We got to know all the creative finance options. Like back in the 80s when Reagan was president, And those interest rates back then were like 15%. Yes or no? Sub 2, buying property subject to, like you could buy cars subject to, you could buy businesses subject to, you could buy motorcycles subject to, you could take over people's mortgages. It doesn't matter what it is. And you should at least know that that's an option. And everyone's big thing is like, oh, the bank can call the loan due. Okay, do they want the money? Do they want to make sure the loan's getting paid off? Or do they want to call the loan due and not get paid and take somebody to court and pay lawyers and try to fight somebody for the money? You know? So
yeah, I mean, I've never heard of somebody their note being called. Again, that's just my experience. Not like it's a massive thing, but I've never heard of it.
And if they do, that doesn't mean that they're not willing to negotiate. And you can transition out of that into a lease option to, satisfy their concerns or whatever it might be. But anyways, I found my little lane and I'm sticking with it, man. I think it's a great option. I'm sorry, Joel, it doesn't get you as many applications as you'd like, but
yeah,
if you just bring the rates down, buddy, we won't have to do this anymore.
I know. I'll put in a call in that won't be answered. No, I want to just take a second and talk numbers, right? So I'm going to give you a scenario of something that I'm working on right now. And then Chris, if you could, provide an example or something closer to a real example. But I mentioned this on the live earlier. I mean, I've got a warehouse that I'm working on. The lender wants 30% down. Initially we had the term sheet out putting 20% down. But as we got deeper into the deal, there's some things happen with the zoning and just some of the details on the property when we got some of the inspections in. They wanted the buyer to put down 10% down more, so a total of 30%. And the buyer didn't want to do that because they wanted to conserve some of their cash to do some improvements to the property. Mm-hmm. So the seller and buyer agree to do a seller carry. So a second note that's recorded, as a subordinate lien on the back end. And on the commercial lending side, this is more. It's more. It's okay within guidelines to be able to have this above board on paper be recorded and also in the contract. Whereas on the residential side of things, you're going to set up a second escrow. You don't want to give the seller carry stuff to the lender, et cetera. But I think it was a 4% rate, 2-year balloon on a 30 grand was the payment. So just something that it helped the buyer be able to get in with the amount of money they wanted to have in, and both sides agreed to it. And we're closing next week. So that's just one scenario of a seller carry. The buyer's going and getting their own new financing, seller carry on the back end established at closing. So for you, Chris, what's one example that you've seen that got a deal done?
I would walk away from that deal in a heartbeat. I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. A 2-year balloon. Like, what kind of equity are you going to be able to build up in 2 years? You know what I mean? To have that balance, dude. You know what I mean? In my opinion, I'm just saying.
Yeah, they've got a lot of cash, so they weren't worried about it.
See, brokies like me don't understand that. You know what I mean? Like, just me specifically, in my experience, I bought and sold a ton of commercial real estate where I would find commercial properties with a distressed seller. The place was in bad shape, roof caving in, looked like a dump. Me and my guys would come and talk to the seller, negotiate a deal, contract for deed, to where I didn't have to come up with a down payment. The deed wasn't in my name, so I didn't get those benefits of ownership, cost segregation, and all that kind of stuff. But what I could do, because I had people that were in the trades, we would fix those buildings up, increase the value. We had a low payment every month. We would find a way to produce income from that property, get it paid off right away, and take the equity that we built up from grassroots and cash out, sell it, and take the equity and go buy something else a little bit bigger, a little bit better, with no bank involved at all, period. Like, the seller becoming the bank is the best opportunity possible, right? You don't have to go through the approval process. There's no FICO scores involved. There's no bank statements involved. There's, none of that stuff. And I know that's rare, but I mean, like, anybody that's trying to get started in real estate, if you want to get into commercial real estate, find a distressed property, a distressed seller that's willing to work out terms with you directly. Take your equity that you could build off that property, and now you have some cash to work with, to where you can go to Joel or a bank and be like, hey, I've got $50K, I want to do this, and this. Now you got some skin in the game. And that's what they want to see. I mean, Joel, correct me if I'm wrong, but the banks want to see that you have some skin in the game, some cash in liquid. They don't want your 401K. They don't want your credit cards that you have. Like, they want to see cash sitting in the bank, seasoned, and that's my mind state. But again, I'm from Chicago. I moved to Southern Illinois. Properties were easier to come by. Sellers were more willing to work with a buyer like me. You know what I mean? So again, it has to do with the market too, and what your exit strategy is too. Like, what do you plan to do? We had one building that was divided in the middle. One half, we opened up a motorcycle and car mechanic shop, and the other half, we had an event space where we did weddings, we did benefits, we did all that kind of stuff. And between the two, we increased the value. We could prove income. We could show that the place was valuable. I bought the place for $25,000. This is in Marion, Illinois. God bless everybody in Marion, Illinois. It just got hit really hard last night with tornadoes and stuff. My kid's house was involved as well. Bought the place for $25,000. I don't remember what it was, on contract for deed, fixed it up, proved that we could make income out of the building, made some cheap repairs. I sold it for $125,000. That guy came in, did some work. He ended up selling it for $650,000 like 2 months later. And I was not happy. I was very, very disgruntled. I was mad. I missed out, but I still made a nice return. You know what I mean? And now that that's where they have like the high school graduation ceremonies and weddings, all kinds of stuff. They turned that place into something really, really beautiful.
Damn.
I bought it. It was falling in. Like, the roof was in bad shape. The bricks on the wall were caving in. I mean, it was in really bad shape, but I made a good return. And it doesn't hurt that the downtown Marion, Illinois area has been built up with restaurants, boutiques. The location was really key.
We got a question in here about seasoning. And Mark, you alluded to this earlier with paying cash for a property and then being able to get the financing right away. It's called delayed financing.
So that one thing with that is it has to be an all cash purchase. So like, if you're going to do a traditional refinance, technically, usually you got to have like 6 months seasoning. But if you do an all cash purchase, then you can basically start it right after the initial transaction closes.
And then speaking of HELOCs, Aaron mentioned getting HELOCs on properties while he lived in them, and then being able to use those to navigate the acquisition process. And so on the lending side, if you go get a HELOC by cash, that would count for us to be able to do delayed financing right away. And there's another layer of that when you get into fix and flips and bridge loans and the commercial side of things that I'll touch in a second. But
can you post Frank's the PayPal link real quick? I know you posted it earlier on your page, but Frank is selling the ORAT t-shirts for the event next February.
So how do I do that though?
You shared it earlier. I put the PayPal link in the private chat with us.
I got it, but how do I share it to the right place?
Oh no, you can share it on your page, in your comment, in your chat. You can share it again.
Oh, okay.
If I could just piggyback on the seasoning subject.
Yeah.
There's also the issue with, for example, we bought a property in Clarksville, Tennessee that had the house blown off the foundation during the tornado last year in December. We bought the property because the engineering department said that the foundation was good, that we could build on top of it, and we wouldn't have to do anything with the foundation. We got a construction loan. We started new construction, start building the home. There were some issues with the water. We needed certain kind of pumps and stuff to get the water from the city up to the house. Long story short, when we tried to transition from a construction loan when the work was done to a DSCR, because we made it into a basement level that had 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and we had the first floor that had 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. We were going to do this co-living thing where like the basement apartment had entrance and exit out the backside, and then the upstairs had the front door access for 3 bedrooms. So we were going to do this multi-family co-living space and wanted to transition into DSCR. And transitioning from construction loans to DSCR wants to see like 20% cash liquid seasoned for a certain period of time. I don't remember if it was 6 months or 12 months, whatever it was. We didn't have that cash liquid just sitting in a bank account. We could get it from an outside source, from a transactional, funding source, or we could get it from a 401k, you know what I mean? And they were not with it. We could not do it. We had to sell the property, and totally miscalculated our move and what we thought was going to be a huge cash flow opportunity, and something we could hold on to for 5 years and, walk away with 100K and roll into something else. Like, totally backfired on us. Plus, like, construction ran longer than we thought. And like I said, the inspections and all the kind of stuff that the city wanted was not what they said it was going to be. So it's a risky thing. Like, seasoning cash and that subject is a big deal. It's something that definitely needs to be looked into. And what are all the prerequisites for different banks? Different lenders are different. They don't care if you add a third party, just put them into your LLC and they show that they've got money in their bank. That's good enough. Even if they just joined your LLC yesterday. I'm just being honest. I don't know if that's like unethical or something I'm not supposed to tell anybody, but
No, it's all good. Yeah.
yeah,
On the commercial side of things, yeah, it's all above board.
Yeah. It's just kind of crazy though. Like, because as soon as the deal's done, you're taking that person out of your LLC. It's like, really, it's just for smoke and mirrors, like just to show you that we have access to some cash that we really don't. Like, I feel like banks definitely want to make sure they're getting paid, but they're definitely super strict, and some of the stuff needs to be a little bit more flexible and look at the exit strategies more than they do just the numbers. No offense.
Aaron, you want to wrap up with Curtis before you leave? Curtis's question, because that's basically what your community is all about, right?
Yeah. So there was a great question in the chat. Any tips for high cost of living area? I'm in Washington State. So I guess a couple thoughts on this, right? Not everyone is comfortable with the idea of long distance investing, but I would also challenge everyone to consider, like, what are you willing to tolerate when it comes to investing in your home market? So I'm not sure. I forget exactly where you are in Washington. King County is notoriously difficult to invest in for several reasons. One is the actual cost, but two, and probably more important in my mind, is the regulatory environment. I'm all for tenants, being protected within reason, but it is, to the extreme there. And being a landlord, you can get trapped in certain situations there that can pretty much completely wipe out any profitability from a cash flow standpoint. Stuff like evictions, even rent increases, anything like that. So I would just question, like, what are you willing to tolerate in order to be able to invest there from a regulatory standpoint, and then also from an affordability standpoint. There's only a few strategies that can really work in areas like that don't involve saving up 25% down payments. We talked about house hacking. We talked about live then rent. A lot of people in Seattle in particular are doing the ADUs now that the zoning, there was a big change to the zoning a couple of years ago at this point, I think. But I am a big fan of considering building the skill of remote investing, because I think it allows you to, instead of boxing yourself in to whatever the constraints of your local market are, you can at least expand and think, what am I really trying to accomplish with investing in real estate? Am I looking for tax advantages? Am I looking for cash flow? Am I looking for slow and steady, long-term appreciation with people paying down my loans? Like, what is it that I'm specifically trying to achieve, and in what timeline? And then you can map to a market that makes sense. That's kind of the way I have grown to think about high cost of living areas. And like Mark said, that's kind of the purpose of how our community came to be. If you were here at the top of this conversation, I was talking about how the first rental we bought was 1 mile away from our house. So it's not like I, came out and was like, oh, I want to invest long distance. But it morphed over the period of 6-7 years now into me understanding that was a good skill set for me to build in order to be able to meet wherever I need to with my own strategy and goals in finding new markets. So I think it's not necessarily a tip for investing in that area, but it's more of a challenge to consider, is that area the right place for the goals that you have? And I'd be happy to have a conversation with anybody offline. I did mention I got to go here because my wife is outnumbered by our 3 young children, and I got to provide some relief before I get in trouble.
Yeah.
But I welcome anybody to reach out to me. I love chatting about this stuff. And you can find me on my YouTube channel. I'm on X. I'm on Instagram. Very easy to find. And I love chatting about this stuff. So please come find me.
Aaron, thank you so much for joining and spending time again. There's one thing I want to just throw at you real quick.
Yeah.
Tall and Skinny's Nashville zoning, Iannotti, why are they able to build two things on one lot? What's the zoning allowability there?
The influx of people that we have come into Nashville is so obscene. The opportunities to find housing is very minimum. Just yesterday, I saw a report that the property values in Davidson County have gone up from 45 to 54% just in the last year. So if you bought $1 million house, it's now worth 1.5 in 1 year. So it's absolutely ridiculous. I really like what our boy Aaron is saying, dude. Congrats to you. I really feel your energy, dude, and wish you nothing but the best. Me personally, I need to feel, touch, and have a stranglehold on anything I invest in. But man, everyone that I know is doing remote, and it's working for them. It's good. Just me personally, I need to be able to put my finger on the pulse. But yeah, Nashville's crazy. Anybody that is looking to invest in properties that are income producing, that is growing as far as equity goes, Nashville is it. Whether you want to develop and build, or you want to buy a fix and flip, or you want to buy something older, like I kind of specialize. My partner, Jana, I'm going to get her on here with us. She's a feisty one. She's like Puerto Rican and Sicilian from New York. We work together. She deals with downtown Nashville and Davidson County. I kind of deal with everything on the outskirts. I don't mind driving. I did $3 million in business in Knoxville, Tennessee last year. I like the outskirts where I was just golfing at, dude. Like, beautiful. So much. It's slowly moving out that way, east, west, towards Chattanooga. It's growing. So I want to try to be ahead of the game. And I mean, you have golf courses, you have a beautiful lake, Center Hill Lake. You've got event centers. It's still growing, and Nashville is filling up so fast. The traffic is so bad that people are starting to look outside and starting to extend their, commute time for work and opportunities. So 1 hour from Nashville, beautiful lake, marinas, golf courses, like that's kind of my focus. I'm looking to be ahead of the game and not try to play catch up with people that are already knee deep in it. So Tall and Skinnies, yeah, man. I mean, they have to. If they want to fit enough people that are trying to move into Nashville, they have to allow people to build two houses on one lot. Otherwise, they're going to have to go somewhere else. They're going to have to move to another city.
All right, Aaron. Thanks, man. It was fun catching up, man.
Had a blast. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Aaron.
Aaron,
You're always a professional one.
what are you trying to say, bro? Am I
we're the fun ones. He's the professional one.
It's Mojo talking about backsides in the chat.
I Mojo's trying to get your channel canceled, man. At least he's doing it on your channel.
At least he doesn't sit. Mojo and Ryan, dude.
Chris, you mentioned though, building 2 units on one lot. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So Hawaii's trying to look towards that also, to put 2 ADUs per lot now, depending on the size. But there was funny. So I've been doing this thing with Zuber, one rental at a time, going through his comment section and kind of looking for the spicy pushback comments. And there was one that interested me. Someone was talking about that, about how we are looking for solutions, smaller homes, building more homes per lot. But that person's kind of comment was more like, is that where we are in America though, or as a country, right? Where we are, is that the solution, right? Like, are we building smaller homes? Are we trying to just find ways to accommodate these living situations by putting more homes on these lots? And is that, not saying it's wrong, but it's more like, is that where we've gotten to? So it was, I just found it more interesting than anything, where someone's perspective was more like, oh, so our solution is just to make things smaller now so people can have a place to live.
Dude, that's the kind of stuff I like talking about, man. Like, let's get into the meat and potatoes, like the traffic here is already so obscene that to go 10 miles, it takes you almost 1 hour. And unfortunately, the fact that we have no state income tax makes Nashville really attractive. The fact that it's supposed to be I don't want to get to politics, but it's supposed to be more realistic type of thinking as far as politics and lifestyle goes. Nashville has effectively been turned into a California or Washington, or it's a very liberal city now, and there's no turning back now. Though we've had enough people from California that have moved here that have turned things into what it is today. Man, we're like, to go to dinner in one of the neighborhoods, like everyone thinks of Nashville as just Broadway. Broadway is one neighborhood, man, and like the locals don't go there. There's 12 South, there's the Nations, there's East Nashville. There's so many cool neighborhoods with great boutiques, restaurants, like really cool, trendy places to go to. But there's been so many people that have moved in. First of all, first-time home buyers, forget it. That's not even an option for you. You cannot afford, unless your daddy's rich or something, you can't afford to live here. And to try to get around as a local, to go to a restaurant, it's Saturday night, right? I want to go have dinner with my girl. Going downtown or anywhere near there is not even an option. So, I mean, like, it's unfortunate that this is where it's come to. And not only is anyone noticing that and trying to pull back the lever and be like, maybe we should slow down on the development and trying to cram as many houses as we can into one lot. Instead, they're ramping it up and they're making like the permitting and the zoning for it so much easier for people, which is great for developers. They're making a ton of money, but those developers don't live here. They're living out where I was at, like out in Smithville, like out by Center Hill Lake, like an hour away from the city, where they have 20 acres and a nice property and everyone knows each other's names, where like in the city, everyone's starting to get packed in like rats. It's starting to feel like Chicago all over again on more than one level, like ideologically and also like physically. So it's kind of sad to watch at the same time. But I mean, when property values are going up like they are, how are you going to deter anybody? It's a good investment, whether you like it or hate it. Like,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just found I thought it was interesting, like how some, like you said, some people's perspectives, the way they're coming at it. And like we like I keep touching about the one rant at a time community, but Millennial Mike is a part of it, and he was just on a live stream, kind of it was almost like an 8-on-1 debate where it was on Raging Tomato. Yeah, he was on the Raging Tomatoes live stream on. They have like a Throwdown Thursdays, but it was basically landlords versus is landlords overlords or something like that. But that was kind of the debate, and there was a lot of people just hating on landlords and looking at it as they're the problems. And then lumberjack landlord is going to be also on that channel on June 5th, and he's going to be debating about kind of the social program Section 8, because his experience with it is it's a program that really needs to be overhauled, and that's his experience with it. And he's coming at it as where some of his portfolio is the Section 8, and he says it is a pain to use, right? And there's a lot of issues there, and he's not against Section 8, he's against how it's being operated in a sense.
We touched on that the other day, dude, and I was glad that you brought that up, man, because I think Section 8 has been a big boo-boo for a long time and needed people's attention, and it's just been kind of swept under the rug. And yeah, man, I mean, it's time to expose and put everything underneath the light.
What's the biggest problem?
You get incentivized for not having a father in the home, period, point blank. And I say that unashamedly. You should not be given a benefit for not having a father in the home, period. And the fact that there's no time limit on how long you can utilize that benefit that actually comes out of our pockets, as far as like the working class. Like, yes, it's definitely needed for a certain demographic and people in a certain situation, regardless of color or where they come from. But it should not be an end all be all. It should be a bridge to help you get from A to B. And anything that incentivizes not having one parent in the home is a problem, in my opinion.
If that's one of the only limitations, right? If it's not open to everybody, it's only open to that subset, then that's
Like, why are you incentivized to have a less than advantageous family situation, and that's the only way you can get that benefit? Sounds like a setup for me. Like, why does it matter if both parents are in the home or not? If there's two parents and they're trying to make ends meet and they can't make ends meet, then they should qualify for those benefits. Why does dad have to be excused from the scenario in order for us to help you? I mean, bro, we can go on for days, and I'll make a lot of enemies, I'm sure, but I mean, it's facts. It is what it is.
We'll tune in June 5th to Raging Tomato, and Lumberjack Landlord will probably be making some people cry on that platform.
Love that.
Yeah, so he has no filter, and he will definitely hurt some feelings that night, I'm sure.
There's guys, y'all know Tom Cruise, this guy Tom Cruise that does these social media like live streams with his private, his yacht and his multi-million-dollar mansion from Miami and all this kind of stuff, and he's preaching Section 8.
Tom Cruise?
Yeah, no, not the actor. There's like a nerdy-looking white dude like that we would all want to beat up if we saw him in person. He's just so smug and condescending. But anyways, he's made his money on Section 8, and he makes it sound like it's so easy. And it's for someone that has tried to do properties and make them eligible for Section 8 rentals. Like, it's not that easy, man. And the problems that you inherit, like, bro, it's not. Everyone wants to make it look so easy, right? All you got to do is buy these properties, turn them into Section 8 properties, and just collect your rent every month from the government, and you're good. Like, no, bro. Like, it's not that easy. Mm-hmm. But anyways, we can go on for days, man. I love the subject, though. It's a great conversation.
I want to ask you a different question. So the tall and skinnies put 2 units on one property. Take the zoning out of it. If you were to instead build a quad unit, 4 units on one property, it's different than your tall and skinny, because that's going to be maybe a family living there, right? But like, let's say you're talking about, your first time home buyer, and instead of buying a single family house or a condo, buying a quadplex, putting 3.5% down, and then renting out the other units. What are your thoughts on that in terms of new construction, if they were to open up zoning for that?
Yeah, if you were smart, that's what you would be doing. I mean, that's what I suggest to anybody that's looking to invest in new construction, is like build multifamily. I mean, it only makes sense. It's easy math, right? Like, so there's a difference between building the tall and skinnies, where you're putting 2 houses on one lot that are super long. You can do something called an HPR, where you can add, even my man said it, ADUs, like additional dwelling units, DADUs, detached additional dwelling units. Building properties in back that are multi-units of a property that's facing the street. If you were smart and there's an alley out the back, I would face them back to back. You know what I mean? So you have a separate entrance and exit. But what a lot of people are doing here is they're building one property in the front. They have a driveway that shares an easement or shares access to the property in the back. It looks like hell to me. And traffic wise, if you have people coming in and out at different times, like, it's got to be a nightmare. It's got to be not fun, but that's what other people are doing. But obviously, Joel, like, do the math, right? Like, multifamily is always, you're always multiplying your income, man. Anytime you could build 3 levels up and build 2 or 3 bedroom units times 3 in 2 different buildings, you got 6 units on one lot now rather than 2 houses. I mean, simple math.
So building, because I think there's restrictions from just code, right? Like, if you're more than 2 levels, then you have to fit other types of requirements for building code. If you're, say, 3 levels and beyond. Yeah,
it just depends on where you're at. So every neighborhood has their own, codes and expectations. Some neighborhoods, if like a lot of people have not been doing that in your neighborhood, you could probably get away with it if you pay the right amount of money and do it the right way. But if your neighborhood is ate up, like the whole block is 3 flats, HPRs, they'll only accept so many people, concentration of people in one neighborhood. So it's just a matter about you, like, being perceptive and getting ahead of the game and getting properties on those blocks in those neighborhoods that no one has really already. It's gentrification, man. That's what it is. To be honest with
Yeah.
you, you know, in order to get those buildings at a low enough cost to where like the construction and all the infrastructure and all that kind of stuff makes sense, you got to be ahead of the game. And so people are doing that now. Like neighborhoods like Bordeaux. Bordeaux used to be, man, like you could not drive. I don't know if this is okay to say, but like you used to not be able to drive through there. It was really, really bad. Buena Vista this is all on the north side of downtown Nashville. Literally across the street from Nissan Stadium. If you go on the other side of the highway, there's projects that are still there. Very, very dangerous back in the day. But if you go one block past the projects, it's multi-million-dollar, tall and skinnies up and down every single street. East Nashville is like ate up with it. So now they're venturing out. Now they're going into Bordeaux and Buena Vista. Like they're good opportunities. You could buy houses for $200,000-300,000, knock them down and build 2 houses and sell them for $900,000 to $1 million a piece. You know what I'm saying? So it's sad to see because now you're pushing out those people that have been there for generations. Where are they going to go? They're running out of places to go. And I don't know what the solution to that problem is, but I think it's nationwide. I think that's kind of it's a real estate trend, obviously for generations, right? But no one wants to talk about that. We're not supposed to talk about that. It's not a real thing. We're not responsible, but it is a thing, and it's sad.
I've never seen Philip Stone Investor LLC here, but thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to hit the subscribe and like button. But he says, how can I JV deals with you? Not sure what market you're in. Chris is in Tennessee. Joe's Missouri primarily. Joe, are you still in Florida doing stuff? I'm in Pittsburgh. So yeah, reach out to us, man.
Joe will get you the cash. I'll find you the deals. And Mark will referee the whole thing for us.
That's right.
Make sure no one gets.
Phoenix and Dallas, he says.
Okay.
Oh, you just missed Aaron. Aaron, he's in Texas, but not necessarily that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of development going on in Plano. There's some big businesses building over there, and more development going on in Plano, Texas, north of Dallas. There's, Dallas is a unique market.
Dallas is huge. Arizona is a good one too, man. I know a lot of people that operate in Arizona. It's definitely not for me. I just don't know enough about the market. Just like St. Louis, man. Like you could find a really good deal on one street, and the next street over is a war zone. You know what I mean? Like you just don't know. So that's why I choose to like operate in places where I know I can go and look and see. Hey Philip, any social media channel that there is, I'm Hustle Dad, just like it sounds, Hustle Dad with 2 D's at the end, and Joel.
Yeah, I threw a link out there, but I think I might have put it on the wrong place. I don't know what I'm doing here, but
Joel's email is chicagobearsrule@gmail.com.
I love Chicago at gmail.com.
Yeah, Philip Store. Oh, maybe your messages are lagging a bit, but I'm in Pittsburgh. I live in Hawaii though. I have investment stuff here, but that's not my primary market. Chris is in Tennessee. Joe's in St. Louis or Missouri, I should say, Florida. But yeah, reach out to us all over social media. I'm Financial Firefighter pretty much everywhere. So yeah, just message us, reach out, man.
I appreciate
Cool.
being here.
Yeah.
Thanks for understanding that I was late. I really apologize about that. That was not expected.
I mean, that's just less pain, less Bears bullshit pain that I have to endure. So I'm okay with it.
Dude, you know right?
Yeah. We didn't bring up Steph Curry or the Warriors or anything though. At least
You know what pisses me off is that there's all this talk about how Anthony Edwards took out LeBron, he took out KD last year, and he took out Steph. Steph didn't even play. How do you say you took out Steph and he didn't even play? He was hurt. So that's my beef. That's my own beef. So there you go. New York.
Philip Stone says he's in New York, but cool. Yeah, man, reach out. I'm sure we can connect and have a chat. It'll be fun. Yes. Oh, Joe's blocking you out, man. Joe's blurring you
I
out of
can't
his
figure out
own
how to
live.
get it on there, but that says Peyton,
Yeah, yeah.
and then this one, bro.
Who is that? Who is Peyton? I don't even know who that is.
Are you? You
I'm
gotta
sorry,
be
dude.
Gary Peyton, the third, the second.
Oh man,
Oh,
it's not
Jesus
working,
Christ.
dude. But yeah, this is a Curry jersey I just got.
Oh, okay. I can stand for that.
So we can still be friends.
We can still be friends. Yeah, yeah. It's ticking now.
It's ticking. It sounds like a threat, dude. Didn't you just dodge a tornado last night?
Shit, I did. Yeah, thankfully.
So my kid's house next door leveled from a tornado yesterday. His house,
What part of Illinois did you say? Broward?
Marion, Southern
Marion.
Illinois. Yeah,
Marion. Damn.
yeah.
Yeah, man.
I was looking out
Yeah.
for him. Great convos, man. We need to do this more often. I got some people that want to get in too, that want to talk about their little strengths and weaknesses as well.
I love this, and the one thing that, and Chris, you missed this. Talking about expectations in real estate. This is the thing that gets me fired up. Is that COVID happened. There's a lot of rising tides lift all boats kind of a thing that happened, but we're kind of getting back to the 5 years of suck, as Mark mentioned earlier. 5 years is get into a deal or a few. It takes 5 years to really see the fruits of your labor, and that's when I first bought got my rentals initially in 13 and continued to scale. I mean, it was a grind. But that's one of the reasons why I keep talking about on Strive for 25, the increasing income. If you can increase income, then it gives you more margin for error as you get into more investing strategies in real estate and things like that. So that's why, talking about income, and Mark, you're an active duty firefighter in Hawaii, also investing in Pittsburgh and doing the social media thing. You're a heartbeat away from getting monetized on YouTube. So that gets me pumped up to hear that and see that. But real estate is the end game, right? Real estate for me is, hey, I'm in a 100% commission job. I need to have something, another lane that I can be building that takes the pressure off, to have that hope that, hey, I'm going to be putting all this work and effort in, that I don't have a light at the end of the tunnel. I need that light at the end of the tunnel. And that for me is real estate, to have that lane growing. So at some point to be able to take the gas off the pedal. So to kind of wrap things up here, Mark, what's the one major thing that you're working on next year or so? Is it social media? Is it YouTube? Is it income? Is it what are you working on?
Getting all the original people that used to come on my channel all the time back on. All you guys just disappeared. You, Lauren, Sierra. Matt's been coming on once in a while, but you just disappeared off the face of the earth, man. But got to get you back on. But James, I saw your message.
I
on
thought
Instagram.
you said that your channel grew so much with me gone. I thought that was a good thing.
It is, but it has, but it is more entertaining when you're on. I get better reels out of it.
Yeah.
But James, I did see you message me on Instagram. That's Philip Stone Investor. I'll message you after. But also, if not, check out the school community. It's a great place to be. Michael Zuber's One Rental at a Time School Community. We're all over there. So come check us out. But yeah, mainly just I'm actually really just contemplating the fireside. Like I said, I'm out on the Dion is here on Instagram messaging, said Mark is working on his next marriage. Yeah, I got that. I got my.
And I hear sirens in the background, bro. Do you got to go or you okay?
No, I am out of work right now. I am out on workers' comp, and we talk about government inefficiency. So I am sitting here waiting. It's been 4 weeks since I'm waiting for my surgery to be actually scheduled. So I saw the doctor who confirmed surgery is required. So that was 4 weeks ago, and I haven't heard anything yet. But Dion, if you guys don't know, to go check out Dion Financial Talk on YouTube. Amazing channel, and he will definitely get you thinking on different views. You can get the usual cookie cutter financial mindset blueprint, but Dion will definitely have you looking at things from a different perspective, and really just kind of understanding what your path is, I guess, really making you look at things and not realizing that you need to work till 65, right? And sometimes retiring early actually is better. Like, know your end goal, right? And I keep touching on it, and it was kind of an eye-opening moment for me. Like I said, that individual, there was an individual on YouTube, social media, that passed away very quickly, or suddenly, I should say. He had blood clots in his lungs. He was a big investor. You know, he was in laundromats, and he kept working because he was making a lot of money. And like I said, it's very eye-opening that tomorrow's not guaranteed. And yes, and Dion says, I want more people to think like Joel. Because Joel, I think he really likes your strive to 25 mentality also. The save, get on that stair step method, right? Is Joel frozen? I think he is frozen.
In
So
more ways than one.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we're still streaming or not, but Joel looks frozen on my end. But Dion, yeah, Joel's a good guy. Chris is also doing cool stuff in Tennessee. But I don't know. I don't know if we're still streaming here. It looks like it stopped. I don't know.
I'm still hearing you, and I see the clock still ticking.
All right. Well, I don't know what Joel's doing, but we can't end this thing because this is Joel's feed, so he's gonna have the one that has to end it.
Joel, unglitch yourself.
Joel,
If I can share something real. Oh, he's out now, but he'll come back in, I'm sure.
all right. So I don't want to end it. I can't end it.
Can I just share something though for anybody?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
For anybody that's listening that has a desire to try to figure out how to crack the code, right? Like how to find generational wealth, how to build an investment portfolio. Listen, man, I will say this to anybody that's listening, whether this gets replayed, reposted, or you catch it now for the one time and only. I have had multiple opportunities and multiple experiences of having success, whether it was flipping properties, doing 4 or 5 at a time, or whether it's been owning properties and renting them out, long-term buy and hold opportunities. Ultimately, where I'm at right now, man, is it's back to the drawing board. And that happens. And it happens multiple times. But like the goal has to stay the same. The resolve has to stay the same. Cannot give up, get discouraged. Like there are things that are out of our control, whether it's COVID, whether it's the mortgage market crashing, whatever it might be. You're going to witness ebbs and flows, right? But the resolve and the commitment and the understanding that like real estate investing is one thing that is not going to change. It's not going to go away. It's always going to be successful if you play your cards right and surround yourself with the right people. And I think that's been my biggest lesson. There he is. That's been my biggest lesson, is to stay surrounded by people like this that are always positive, that are always pouring into you, that want to see you succeed. It's not a competition. It's not about let me brag and show you what I've done and but other than that is to like share, here's my secrets, here's what I've done, here's what's worked for me. And those are the people you want to surround yourself with. So I guess I just want to impart some encouraging words. You might live in a city where your football team ditched you. You might not have, a rock solid baseball team or whatever. But if you're interested in investing in real estate and you're committed to it, man, it's always going to pay off. Just stick with it. Don't back down. Find ways, find alternative opportunities, and get creative and be willing to learn and listen. And one day you could be just like me and Mark, and not like Joel.
Welcome
right.
back, Joel.
Yeah, I think I'm lagging. My computer just like started making some weird loud sound and just froze. I don't even know what happened.
Did you hear me?
I think I got hacked.
Did you hear me? What Dion said about you?
No, you were just saying that. I got disconnected.
Yeah, so Dion Financial Talk was tuning in from Instagram, and he said, I want more people to think like Joel.
Oh, damn.
So I really think he likes your stair-step method, the Strive for 25 platform. Because he's definitely like that. If people don't know him, his Bigger Pockets episode, The Lazy Investor, is what really got a lot of people interested. And, he's never touched his equity. He just does the long-term buy and hold, no short-term rentals, none of that. And that's his strategy, and it's worked for him, and he's killing it. And he, like I said, I think he definitely makes people think and see things a different way. But like he said, he wants more people to think like you.
No, that's awesome to hear, and I've never really been able to connect with him directly. I think I maybe had commented on a couple of his lives, and he acknowledged me. But yeah, I'd love to be able to connect with Dion at some point. And when I think about opportunity, I live in Florissant, which is the northern part of the St. Louis County, and it's an area that, in terms of just geography and price points, it's a lower end price point than some other areas. And so, when I'm talking to an audience and I look at the stair step method as an opportunity, because Frank, right? He's investing in rental properties in St. Louis, but on the northern quadrant of the metro area. And so, if I'm 25 years old and I'm living the northern part of St. Louis County in Florissant or Blackjack or Ferguson or whatnot, and I can buy a property as a primary residence, let's say $135,000, live there for a year or two, save up by the next one, turn the old one to a rental. Why let somebody from California, 4,000 miles away, buy this as a rental? Why can't I go do it as a primary and be local and do it right? So that's one of the things that is part of the things that I'm working on internally here in St. Louis. Like you got to go.
No, somebody's from
Yeah.
Italy in the chat. I was saying hello. Hello,
Woo! Damn. That's
San
badass.
Francisco. Sorry, dude. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just hand signaling, saying hello.
Yeah, no, but there's a small homeschool that I've been doing some work at throughout the school year. I go in every Wednesday, talk about entrepreneurship content and challenges, and they just did as a last challenge for the school year. They eight kids that are in this high school class. They created a short film. We did a content day where we showcased the film. We had entrepreneurs come in and the kids did the interviews, and then we're in the process of editing it. And so, trying to be able to showcase and teach some of these income skills, increase income, be able to save more money, and then be able to invest. And then it's guys like us and women that are out there putting out content and educating of what's possible. That's the thing I think is just so valuable, to be able to connect those dots. But at the end of the day, I mean, social media only goes so far. Being able to do things in person, like you mentioned, Chris, you want to be able to touch that real estate. Sometimes you have to be able to connect with people on the ground level to be able to make an impact. And so that's one of the things that's a big passion of mine with these platforms. So it's cool to hear Dion say that. I might need it. It's more of his help to be able to reach more people.
That's something that the guy I was with today, I told you about him, Joel. He's a AI guru. This guy is like so dialed in on the stuff. And we were talking today while we were golfing. I was like, you know what? The only thing that's going to save us is the fact that people are still going to need and desire that human interaction that you can't duplicate. You know what I mean? Like, I need to look you in your eye and talk to you before I make an investment of $1 million and let you know, like, if you burn me, Jack, I'm gonna be at your front door. No, but on a human level, like, we need to have that interaction. That's something that AI cannot duplicate and will never replace. And it's something we need to get back to, man. Back to basics. Let me connect with you. Let me get to know you as a human being and see if we can operate together.
Mahalo.
Yeah. Do you remember Travis? Joel, he just, I just checked out. He's in the fire department in St. Louis, in some small county probably, but I just reached out. He said everything's good.
Okay. That's good to hear.
Messaged him to see how he's doing, but he said he jumped off Facebook for a while. So, but yeah, I told him jump in over here and make trouble, but I'm not sure.
It looks like Metro got affected by the storms last night, huh? Like across from the zoo and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it touched on a couple different random areas. Yeah, there were a couple of buildings that just got torn up.
Really scary, man.
Yeah.
Really scary.
All right, y'all. Anything else you want to tap into before we jump off here?
No, man. Just like I said, just jump back in our regular lives. Well, I'm pretty much doing it regularly now because I'm out. I'm not working, so it's easier for me to be more consistent. I don't have to juggle things around as much. But
you're doing one on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Right?
I got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday's my regular stuff with Zuber now, and then Friday I'm gonna have 2 people from Pittsburgh on. doing a live. One is the kind of my broker agent guy, and one is going to be the contractor guy. So I think a lot of people will tune into that one, kind of pick their brains. But I just did an interview with Omar, who is the contractor. So if you want to see a long form content, go check out my channel and go see the video with Omar Mohammed. Cool guy, super good guy.
So on my side, every Tuesday I'm going live, and then every other Saturday, and just trying to pull in people in different markets all together to talk shop, just like this. So do you think Taggart would be somebody that would come on? Would he be willing to come on live?
Yeah, Jeremy would. He's trying to. So he's Jeremy's another rock star agent in Pittsburgh. He just was on a Bigger Pockets episode.
Oh, really?
So yeah, he just made it on there. He's actually stepping away from the. I wouldn't say the transactions, but he's kind of letting his team handle the transaction side. He's going to be more of the kind of lead gen. So that's why he's trying to get out on social media a little bit more. So definitely he'd probably be willing to talk on stuff. So he's actually gonna be on Tuesday for my channel.
Sweet. Yeah. So if you come across anybody that you think would want to come by on this side, let me know.
Yeah, Jim is a little upset because I made fun of his shirt that he was wearing the other day on a Zoom call. So, but basically he said nobody's tuning in for me; they're tuning in for the people that I bring on. And I have to agree with you, Jim. But I'm glad you pointed that out to me.
That's why I like Mark, though. He's a ball breaker from like no other dude. Like, I love it. I think it's great. I think it's awesome. I appreciate you having me, Joel. Mark, good to see you again as always.
Good seeing you, man. We'll get you on some lives too with on my side, and that way I don't just randomly pop off too. Like I don't let the other people hanging on the channel.
Yeah, I'm good at that. You're welcome. Just take the air. Talk about what you want to talk about.
Oh, shiza. It's great, man. Like
talk about the backside.
I like talking to y'all, man. I think it's a great subject. I think something that we could definitely stay consistent with and grow this community, man.
Love it. Love it.
Coast to coast.
All right, guys. Yeah.
Go Bears.
Yep. Go Bears.
Go Warriors.
We love you, Joel.
2026.
All right, y'all. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Have a great Saturday.
All right, thanks, guys. See ya.
Bye-bye.